Okay, let's call this meeting to order. It's now 7 o'clock, and as per normal, we will start with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. So if you don't mind, I'll stand, remove covers, etc. Heavenly Father, as we gather today for the Planning Commission meeting, we humbly ask for your guidance and wisdom in our deliberations. Grant us discernment to see the needs of our community clearly and the foresight to make decisions that promote responsible development while honoring the character of our county. May our discussions be respectful, thoughtful, and focused on the greater good. Help us listen attentively to all perspectives, weigh options with fairness, and ultimately choose what is best for the future of our community. We thank you for your presence with us and ask that you bless our work here today. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call, please?
Dee Dee Schott-Grace.
Present.
John Gresham.
Here.
Nicole Hunt.
Here.
Kyle DiNardo.
Here.
Dan McCallum.
Here.
Diana Edstrom.
Here.
Robert Politek. Robert Politek. Absent. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Real quick reminder, please do turn off your cell phones. It's always fun to hear ringtones in the middle of conversation. And do we have a staff report?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I actually have quite a lengthy staff report, if you will bear with me for a few minutes. I wanted to start off by acknowledging and thanking our IT staff. They are now attending these meetings to help run the AV equipment, and so that's a huge help to CDS staff and to the Commission to have the experts here when we need them for that. And in that same topic, this room will also be getting new equipment, including new microphones in the next week or so. So hopefully at your next meeting, that will all be up and running, so you all can look forward to that. About our applications that have gone from the Planning Commission to the board since your last meeting. It's been a little while since we've had a regular meeting, and so there are several things to report on. Back on July 2nd, the Board of County Commissioners did vote to deny both applications associated with the XL Power Pathway project. And since so that was back at the beginning of July. There is a news article circulating, so you all might have seen that in the Elbert County News, that XL has filed suit in district court regarding that denial. So that's the update on that topic. On the 23rd of July, the Board of County Commissioners approved the special use by review application for the patch, and they also approved the Trishul rezone that had come before the Planning Commission. Originally scheduled for the 23rd was the zoning and subdivision regulation updates that have come from this body. That was scheduled for the 23rd. At the request of the board, those were continued to August 13th. And so on August 13th, those will be on their agenda. So those changes that you all recommended will be before the board next week. And then also on the 13th, the board will ratify the appointments that they have each individually made to regarding members of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. So that will be officially approved at the 13th meeting. There are 2 planning commissioners on that steering committee, Commissioner Kirkwood and Commissioner Hunt. And so look for those to be official next week as well. And while we're on the topic of the comp plan, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to be sure that the Planning Commission is up to date and familiar with everything that's going on. The comprehensive plan is finally moving full speed ahead, which is really exciting. there is a community survey that is live. Hopefully you've seen this flyer. It's in this building. It's in the it's in the newspaper, what's it called? The Prairie Times, I believe. It is in our other county buildings, and it is in all of the libraries in the county. Just to let people know about the survey, there is a QR code. You can scan it with your phone to take the survey. There are also paper copies at the library and in the county buildings. If someone preferred to do that, we're happy to take those. And then there's also a website. Elbert County Comprehensive Plan.com is a website specifically for the plan, as the name suggests. We've also put a button on the CDS page through the county website that will take you there, and you can access the survey from that website. So I would encourage all of you to take the survey. If you have more to say than the survey asks you about, you are welcome and encouraged to send us an email. You can send it to myself or any of the CDS staff. You can also reach out directly to the consultants who are helping with that project, and their information is on there as well. And so I wanted to be sure that you all were up to date on that. And as of this morning, we have gotten 357 responses back so far. So with a month to go, I'm really excited about that number. I think that's a really positive trajectory that we're on for responses. The survey will be open through Labor Day. It closes on September 5th. So now don't wait till September 4th to fill it out. Just fill it out now. It doesn't take that long, but you do have a whole month. And so we are hopeful to really get a lot of responses from the community. While this is certainly not the only community engagement and not the only way to hear from the community, it's a really important one here on the front end, and the survey format gives us the opportunity to get a lot of important information from the community to help drive those next stages of the comprehensive plan. So we're really excited about that, and we hope that you all will help us share the word that that survey is out and open. Take it, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, put it on. I know you guys have like email groups, so share that so we can get a lot of responses to really hear from a big cross section of the community. Our consultants actually have the capability of tracking. Well, there's a question that helps with this as well. So there's a question, but they can also look to see where responses are submitted from to help us get an understanding if we are getting responses from the entire county. So, we want to be sure that we have a representative sample. So folks that live right in Simla or way out east or, right over on the county line, that we're getting a sample from the entire county. So we are tracking that and reviewing that, and there is a question on there about, where people live. Folks, and there is also questions that talk about if you don't live in the county, but if you work in the county, or maybe you provide professional services in the county, those are also available to take the survey, but it does track that for us. So we're able to report back, the percentages of who all has responded. So that's exciting, and we will work with your liaisons to the steering committee to provide you regular updates on what's going on with that project. And I'm happy to work with you, Chairman and Commissioner, if you all would like to add something to the agenda to discuss those or provide regular updates, we can certainly do that. So just let us know about that. Moving on a little bit, on the 29th of July, we did have a joint work session with the Planning Commission and the BOCC. We were hoping to work through some finalizing or some resolution of various sort of topics that have been going on for a while about packets and exactly what's included and when those are going to be provided and all of those sorts of things. There wasn't any definitive direction out of that meeting yet, but we're wanting to continue to work together to find the sweet spot, right? We need a Goldilocks packet that's just perfect for everyone, that meets all of the needs to provide enough information, right, while still being careful to provide security for privacy and not having distractions for the issue at hand and things like that. So we're certainly planning to keep working with you all on that. I do want to make a clarification that how sort of we got here, there have not been any unilateral decisions made, right? So everything that has come forward so far has been discussed with the board and with legal, et cetera. Again, fully admit that we're not quite to the sweet spot yet, but that we'll continue to work in that direction. Also balancing, right, best practices from our other jurisdictions and similar sizes. So we want to continue to work together with you to provide and determine consistent packets so that those are reliable for you all, so that you know what to expect, so that they are easy, right? This is a public document so that the public can review it and know what they're looking at, and that it makes sense and that it's easy to use. For the packets that you received tonight, there were 2 new items added that was allowed by Chairman Kirkwood. So we did add a project summary sheet, which was basically, you know, kind of the basic information, the project number, the applicable review criteria, what documents are included, and then a summary of the public notification. So that was one attempt to help provide some of that information in a clear and easy manner. There was also added a completeness checklist. Those have been used internally, but we created one to go in the packet that outlines the required documents based on the applicable section of the regulations, the date that was received, any associated notes, or if something was waived, the date it came in, and then ultimately the date that that application was deemed complete. And as a reminder, complete means ready for referral, not approvable, right? So there is sort of that distinction there. And so that has been included. Again, I fully recognize that we're probably still not quite to that final spot. I do have a proposal for you all that I think could be a helpful addition moving forward, which would be, in addition to these and the items that you're receiving, I think it could be helpful if staff created a referral review matrix or a table to include for you that outlines in a summary format everywhere that that application was sent for review, the referral number, right? Sometimes there's 1, 2, 3, 4, hopefully not 4, more than 4, but we could outline every time it was sent out, every time that a comment was received, you know, kind of a summary of what the comment or issue was, if there was one, so that you all could pretty easily track, oh, that roadway, for example, right, has been an issue through 3 cycles, or, yep, it looks like there was only that one issue left after the first review cycle, and, you know, that was resolved in this way. So, like I said, I would like to propose to add that to the next set of packets that come before you. I think that could be really helpful. I think that would hopefully, again, just be helpful and provide some additional information and some easy tracking, because a lot of these projects go on for 8, 10, 12, 14 months, right? And I know going through all that paperwork it can be a lot, it can be overwhelming, and that's really kind of what we're trying to solve here, right, is to create that best result for you all, so that you have what you need, but that you don't get bogged down in all sorts of comments from 11 months ago that are no longer relevant to what's currently on the table. So I have worked with some planning commissions who wanted the bare minimum only. I don't think that's this group. So we're trying to figure that out, and I hope that you all will continue to work with us as that continues to evolve, and we figure out how to get that just right moving forward. So I outlined sort of that proposal. I do want to thank you all for continuing to work with us. Like I said, I know there's a lot of competing ideas and direction, and so we are certainly doing our best to try to manage that, and things continue to evolve, right, with all sorts of changes in the county. And so we want to continue to work with you, and thank you for helping us get there. And I think that your patience will pay off, and that we're getting close.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to the proposal, and as you work through this, I think we'll get to a point where we can reach that fundamental nirvana in terms of where we're at from a document perspective. So thank you very much. Anything else for the staff report?
I believe that's all for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. With that, we're in the process where it's time for citizen comments. This is any comments that are not related to the matters that we're hearing tonight. So if you have any comments, again, not related, please come up to the microphone and we'll be happy to hear you. I'm hearing the crickets in the room, so thank you very much. I don't think we're going to be doing citizens' comments. We have approval of meeting minutes as the next item. I'd propose that we group together A and B, which are the XL hearing minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those, review them? Any changes that need to be made? Can I make a quick comment?
Diana Edstrom, I just wanted to thank CDS and Wendy especially for the excellent job with the minutes. They've been complete, informative, really, really helpful to remind us or anybody else who wants to know how things went in those meetings. And it looks like you've put a lot of time and effort into it. So thank you very much, Wendy, for doing all that hard work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So with that, I'll hear a motion for A and B PC minutes for June 3rd and June 4th.
I move that we approve the A and B minutes from the Excel hearing.
Fantastic. Second?
I'll second.
I think Dan was first. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an approval on those. For C, the June 17th meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance? I'll hear a proposal on that.
I move that we approve the June 17th minutes.
Thank you. We'll get in gear here shortly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Again, Dan with a second. Thank you. Do we want to include D and E together as well? One's for the work group or work study session on the 1st and for the PC minutes. Everybody had a chance to read them, review them? Okay, can we get a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve the minutes from our work session, and I think that's the June 7th, July 1st, and July 1st from the work session and the planning session.
Thank you. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Dan.
Dan again? Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go into the public hearing process. This body is a fact-finding body that is required to review the case and make decisions based upon the application and the applicability to the standards and criteria. And we will be making a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners based on this hearing. Again, all testimony must be competent, on topic, and not repetitious. With that, I would like to open the public hearing on the Roselle rezone, RZ 2023-2498. And staff report.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Kelsey Lanham with the Elbert County Planning Department. My first presentation tonight will be for the Roselle rezone, case number RZ-2023-2498. A little bit about the project. The subject property is 24981 Cave Spring Trail. It's just over 35 acres in size. It's currently zoned agriculture, and the applicant, Paul Roselle, is requesting to rezone the property from agriculture to agriculture residential. Looking at the timeline, the pre-application meeting was in October of 2023. The community meeting was held in August of 2024. This project went through one review cycle in February of this year. They are scheduled to go to the BOCC on August 27th, and all public notice requirements have been met. At the community meeting, there was one resident in attendance outside the applicant, his family, and county staff. The comments and questions that came up at the community meeting included how many lots were allowed in the subdivision and what the approval process looked like for that HOA. I will mention that the HOA has approved of this request already. The applicant took care of that fairly quickly, so that has been taken care of. Other than the one resident at the community meeting, no additional comments have been received to the planning department. These are the referral agencies who reviewed and responded to the application. There are no outstanding objections from any of these agencies. Here is an aerial view of the subject property. The property line is outlined in blue, and the Douglas County border is that yellow line. It's approximately half a mile, how the crow flies, from that county border. And looking at the zoning map, the light green represents AR zone properties, or the agriculture residential, which is the zone district that the applicants are requesting to rezone to. The light purple is Kelly Air Park planned unit development, and the other green is zoned agriculture. And here is their rezone exhibit. In this photo, the property line is outlined in red. And as you can see, they are requesting to rezone the entire property from agriculture to agriculture residential. The review criteria found in the Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3C4, these are summarized. But A, the rezone is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This proposed rezoning is consistent with the goals and policies, specifically Goal RD. The proposed rezoning allows for the creation of various lot sizes within the subdivision. In addition, the proposed zoning also allows for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, which would create that higher residential density if desired. B, the rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. Like I showed on that zoning map, there is a cluster of AR zoned properties directly across from the subject property. This reduces which is known as spot zoning, and creates an extension of an already established adjacent agriculture residential zoned properties. C, the rezone would not adversely impact the provision of public services. The rezone was reviewed by Elbert Fire District and the electric company. There were no objections or concerns noted. D, the rezone would not adversely impact the environment. Like I just mentioned, Elbert County Fire was a review agency, and so was the Division of Water Resources. They reviewed the application and had no objections or concerns regarding the impact on the environment with this rezone. E, the rezone would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Public Works reviewed the project and had no objections regarding traffic and no required improvements for this rezone. And finally, F, the rezone would not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare to inhabitants of Elbert County. The rezone, like I mentioned, was reviewed by numerous agencies in which there were no concerns regarding the health, safety, or welfare currently or anticipated for the future. Looking at the considerations for a decision, the surrounding properties are zoned agriculture and agriculture residential. This subject property is located within the Palmer Divide Ranches on East Cherry Creek subdivision. It's a long one, but that is where it's located. And the HOA for the subdivision has approved of the rezone application. And these are potential conditions of approval. Number one, the rezone exhibit must comply with the Elbert County zoning regulation standards. 2, the applicant shall remove signs within 2 weeks of the conclusion of all notified meetings, public hearings, or decisions. Signs not removed within those 2 weeks may be removed by Elbert County, subject to reasonable charges. 3, the rezone will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the rezone exhibit is recorded. And 4, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of the BOCC approval. The applicant is present tonight and to speak and answer any questions. Staff is also available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Would the applicant like to stand up and speak?
I want to thank the members of the board, commission for your consideration tonight of this endeavor for ourselves. If I may, just for 10 seconds, my wife and I moved here to Elbert 5 years ago, and in anticipation of living here until we die, I guess. And as a result, we're hoping that my son and daughter-in-law and my 3 grandchildren will be able to occupy once we subdivide. That's our hope.
Fantastic. Any citizen comments? Okay, perfect. Please. Name, address.
I'm Scott Paul English, 24940 Cave Spring Trail. I'm one of the 10-acre lots over there. Paul is a great guy, and I want him to come through with it as far as dividing his property and everything.
If you could talk into the mic, please.
Anyways, I really think about the HOA on this thing. Now, on that map that she showed, there's no road on the side of his house. Has that been taken off?
Please address us.
Because on this map that I got through the mail, there's a road there on the side of his house.
And again, what we're considering tonight is just rezone from agricultural to agricultural residential, and that would be included in a plat process. So we're looking for comments, and if you could just please continue, state your case, understand what you're trying to either defend or...
I'm all for him to divide his property up. Our HOA does everything for Douglas County, because half of it's in Douglas County, and nothing for Elbert. As you'll see, this road that's by his house has not been taken off the books. And it goes down to the other property behind him that's under 35 acres. It's Cave Spring Road, but there's no road there. And I've talked to the assessors, I've talked to everything. I says, why is this road on there? Because it's never been taken off the books. And the HOA has to take it off the books. They have to come in and pay $1,000 plus the $300 for a committee or whatever it is, and they don't want to pay it. And there's a couple things on that, and so that's right where I'm a little angry at the HOA. I'm not angry at all, Paul. Paul's a great guy, he's very smart, everything else. But the side of his road, it has a 100-foot easement on the one diagram in 2005. Our HOA has not made a a Elbert County subdivision since 2007. Every time we have a change, you go up there and you get the HOA, you look up in the records, and there's nothing there after 2007. We've had a lot of divides, and we had 40 go to 10, and had a circle in there, and then went back to 20s. They don't change it. Why? I don't know. And I know you guys don't have anything to do with HOAs, really, but we need a lawyer to give them a letter saying they got to get our subdivision up to property, up to right. And that's all I'm saying is we need to go after the HOAs that don't get the survey and get their subdivision right, where you can look up a HOA property and get it. And that's why I'm here, is just to talk about the HOA. As far as Paul, I'm glad about it, but somebody has to hear it out. I've talked to Dallas about it, the commissioner, and it seems like, you know, it's sad that we can't get an HOA to show what they got, a map. Our map has not changed, and we've had people move in, move out. And so if I could talk to the Elbert County lawyer or anything like that, to get them to write a letter to get our subdivision up to right, where they have to survey it and get it right on a map. And the records department agrees with me. There is nothing in the records department. You have to look under Blackfoot, and here you'll have to look under Roselle. Instead of looking under the HOA, the Palmer Divide, East Cherry Creek, and whatever, and they're going to their records and get a map. You can't get it. Anyways, I'm thankful for hearing me.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make a comment? With that, would you like to address the gentleman's concerns? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I'm not sure it's pertaining to our
Right.
particular subdivision, so I don't really have a.
We'll give you the option regardless.
I would like to say one thing is I want to thank I failed to mention and express gratitude to Kelsey Lanham and her team for their wonderful service and support through this process. This is a one-off. This will be a one and done for me, and I won't be doing this again. And so their guidance and direction in helping us through this process has been immensely helpful for us. So to the issues related to the HOA and so forth, I really don't have any particular comments.
Thank you.
Yes.
So with that, we'll close the public portion of this, and we'll shift gears over to an all-board discussion. John, what are your thoughts?
I have no questions or opposed. There's sun moving there, so.
Yeah, my only question is, I saw you guys have a tentative plan of 25 acres and 10 acres. That can change, but who gets what? Who gets the 25 and who gets the 10? I don't think you want me to answer that.
Mr. DiNardo, I'm hoping, and with them next door. And on a side note, I have a total of 26 grandchildren. They won't all be living there, but 3 of the top drawer ones will.
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's great.
I don't have any questions either. I just want to say that there's a lot of times with all these rezonings and stuff that I don't have I'm not real fond of a lot of it, but this is the very best reason in the world to do a rezone, and I hope that it happens and quickly and that you're very, very happy. So congratulations to and you'd better take care of him. All right. All right.
Dan? Diana? Nicole?
No, just, I guess a question just for staff on the topic. One is, I noticed that you used the phrasing spot zoning versus, I'm guessing it would be like area zoning. But is that something that's actually in the regs or just kind of like best practices?
So spot zoning is not referenced in the regulations. It's more planner vocabulary, if you will. I believe it's the easiest way to picture it and also like reference it.
Yeah. And then I just ask because I know that neighboring counties do have like entire areas of the county that are zoned for particular types of use. And, you know, that they try to encourage zoning projects to fall in line with that type of zoning. So I was just curious if that was something that that we had in our zoning regs, or if it was more of just a vernacular that y'all used.
I would just add a little bit more in terms of, this is the type of question we've heard quite a bit from the Board of County Commissioners asking about, you know, sort of the compatibility issue and where things are located and how close it is to something zoned similar. And finally, on a different but related topic, you know, one of the things that we expect to come out of our comprehensive plan that will be so helpful to you all and to the board will be a future land use map, which will provide guidance as to where, you know, a variety of zoning districts would be appropriate. And one of the reasons for that is to avoid the same type of thing, like a spot zoning, which is, not something we really see in the county, but something that our commissioners have been asking about.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. And then the only other question I guess I had as follow-up was, as we're talking about potentially rezoning and having two different properties here, I just wondered if that would potentially, like the updates would be something that would potentially impact what the other public comment was about with regard to just drafting of where lines are, where roads are, if mapping is out of sync. Is that something that the county would work with the HOA to make sure that their current mapping is up to date with the county's mapping?
So when the minor plat was submitted, it was seen on there. It shows a planned road. Obviously, there's no road there. It's on the property line between the applicants and the property to the north. It doesn't affect the rezone or the subdividing at all. If the HOA would like to remove it, or the owner of that planned road would like to remove it, we can definitely accommodate that, but we would look at our different types of applications and see which one would be best fit.
Thank you. That's it? Fantastic. I have no questions as well. With that, I would entertain a motion for Roselle Rezone RZ 2023-2498.
Yeah, I'd make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case RZ-2023-2498, subject to the following conditions as recommended in the staff report.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Nicole? Roll call vote?
Roll call vote. Dee Dee Schott Grace. John Gresham.
Aye.
Nicole Hunt.
Aye.
Kyle DiNardo.
Aye.
Dan McCallum. Diana Edstrom.
I'm voting no, and the reason I'm doing that is in my review of the application, I found that I do not have all of the documents required per the zoning regulations, and therefore cannot make a decision to vote yes on this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Kevin Kirkwood.
Aye.
Chairman, you have 1 nay and 6 ayes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Congratulations. With that, I would like to open the public hearing on Independence Filing 5, Final Plat, FP 2024-7515. Staff presentation.
Great, thank you. So my next presentation will be for Independence Filing 5, Final Plat. Again, Kelsey Lanham with the Elbert County Planning Department. This is case number FP-2024-7515. So, project summary, the site location is the Independence subdivision. For this filing 5, it's just over 377 acres. The zoning is planned unit development, or PUD. The request is to subdivide those acres into 162 additional lots. I will mention that in the staff report, it states 163 lots are being proposed. It's actually 162, so I just wanted to make that correction before going into more detail. The project timeline, so their pre-application meeting was May 8th of 2024. They had 2 community meetings, one in June of 2024. At this one, staff was present, and at the recent one in July of 2025, the applicants initiated this community meeting and was fully conducted by them. No county staff was present at this community meeting. They had 2 review cycles. One happened September to October of 2024, and their second was March of 2025. And this is scheduled to go to the BOCC on August 27th. At the community meeting back in 2024, there were 16 residents in attendance outside of the applicants and county staff. Some of the comments and questions that came up included traffic, school location, trails, a park, road improvements, and the location of the second entrance. Outside of the community meeting in 2024, no additional comments have been received. And these are the agencies that reviewed and responded to the application. There are no outstanding objections or concerns from these agencies. Now, this next slide is hard on the eyes, so I apologize. But here is their final plat. This is a combination of their 2 sheets so that you could see the overall picture. Like I mentioned, the total proposed lot count is 162, with just under 20 acres of open space for this filing 5. And here is a snippet of their phasing plan. This project will be in 3 phases. So this aerial photo was taken in June of 2024. So this is the view that the community and those who use our public information map, this is what they're able to see. It's one of the filters on that map. So I wanted to provide an aerial that everyone has access to and can see as of today. With these additional lots proposed in filing 5, the total lot count will remain under the total allowed lot count, which is 1,400. So they are still well below that. The review criteria for this is in the Elbert County Subdivision Regulations, Article 2C, and like before, these are summarized. A, there's evidence that provision has been made for a water supply that is sufficient. Independence filing 5, final plat will be serviced by the Independence Water and Sanitation District. The Division of Water Resources declared that the Independence Metro District did have adequate water to serve these additional lots. B, there was evidence that provision has been made for sewage disposal. The proposed lots will be serviced by the Independence Water and Sanitation District for wastewater as well. C, there's evidence to show all areas that may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards. There are no existing soil or conditions that present hazards or require special precautions within the final plat. D, the application is in compliance with the subdivision regulations and zoning regulations. This proposed final plat is in compliance with both the subdivision and zoning regulations. it remains compliant with the number of allowed lots within that Independence PUD. E, the application is consistent with the intent, policies, and goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, specifically Goal RD, residential development. The final plat does allow for smaller lot sizes, which creates the opportunity for that higher residential density. The existing roads and infrastructure throughout the subdivision and this proposed extension will support those lots. And the considerations for decision, the applicants addressed all initial concerns from the review agencies. The proposed lots will be served by the Independence Water and Sanitation District, and no public comment has been received. The potential conditions of approval are the applicant shall remove the signs within 2 weeks of the conclusion of all notified meetings, public hearings, or decisions. Signs not removed within 2 weeks may be removed by Elbert County subject to reasonable charges. 2, the final plat shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the final plat is recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. The applicants are present to speak and answer any questions. They do have a presentation for the Planning Commission tonight. Staff is also available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. Jim, you want to present?
Yeah, Jim Yates for the developer and the applicant. We have Mark Kiefer here and Carolyn White to give a quick presentation.
Good evening. My name is Mark Kiefer, K-I-E-F-F-E-R. My address is 1101 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado. I'm with the firm Norris Design, representing the applicant this evening. Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I see a couple familiar faces, but certainly several people that I have not met personally yet. I'd like to add that your staff has been also very helpful in this process and guiding us through yet another plat in Independence. One of the things I'd like to mention too, I know that there are several planning commissioners here that probably are unfamiliar with Independence and probably master plan communities in general and the subdivision process. So I want to just touch on that a little bit more, kind of add to what Kelsey, your staff, has presented and also included in your staff packet. So with that, I just want to introduce our team again. Jim did a brief job doing that, but again, Jim Yates is here to answer any questions. He'll follow up our presentation to respond to specific concerns and issues that may come up and questions that may come up from the Planning Commission. I also have Jeff Killingsworth here from Core Engineering. He's representing our civil engineering team, which is also part and parcel of this whole subdivision process. A lot of these types of issues and concerns or referral comments, I should say, are technical in nature and usually related to civil engineering. So Jeff's here to answer any of those questions that may come up as well. And then also I have Carolyn White here. She's our legal counsel that's going to be concluding with a couple of comments and some closing statements. And then, as I mentioned, my name is Mark Kiefer with Norris Design. We're the land planner primarily and kind of helping craft companies go through the process. So I just want to go over, again, this is meant as a quick presentation. I just want to offer these as highlights about what this project's all about and about our vision and goal for independence. So I presented a little bit of an agenda here to go over some of the highlights that we'll be talking about this evening. First is the overview of the project, just again adding to what Kelsey has already offered you. Then second, I just want to give you all an update, again, for the benefit of those planning commissioners who haven't been at Independence or unfamiliar with what it looks like today, just a brief snapshot of what's going on out there today. And then also recap some of the public improvements that have been going on. And I want to add this, discussion primarily because there's a lot of infrastructure that's been in place. They're not directly associated with this filing, but it's part of the overall development strategy that leads up to this particular subdivision. And then, as I mentioned, Carolyn will be adding a couple of concluding remarks following my presentation. So with this slide, I just want to mention too, again, when Jim and the craft companies organize a team for any project that they're working on, they give us very specific criteria on how to approach the development of a specific piece of property. So what we're calling objectives and approaches are actually directions or directives that we're getting directly from our client craft companies in terms of how we approach any design or development within any project that we're working on with the developer. The first tenet that we're describing here is this general category called smart growth, and part of that is fundamentally based on what is called low impact development. And just a brief summary about that, what that means is that we're integrating from the very beginning of this project, integrating stormwater management, overall drainage of the site, grading, and everything associated with it to blend that project within the land as it exists today. It's really important, in terms of these types of properties that you're seeing in Elbert County, but particularly Independence in that location. We're also, one of the major criteria here too is to really emphasize walkability and the clustering of homes or neighborhoods within Independence. And you'll see in our plan, I'll show you the overall picture of Independence. You can see how that has been integrated in the overall design approach. And then one of the final comments, but not the least, and not the only comment left, but we're also emphasizing low impact lighting because it also is one of those characteristics of Elbert County that we think is important, keeping the light levels low so there's not a lot of suburban glare in this area. And it provides a benefit to our neighbors too in the county. The other objectives too, just to touch on those briefly, we also are looking at phased development. So one of the criteria that your housing study and your comprehensive plan discuss is how to approach development in a logical, sequential manner. So part of our approach here, why you see subdivision plats coming incrementally instead of one big subdivision at one time, it's to accommodate not just the market of the development, but also making sure that it's integrated within the project, within the land, without having a tremendous upfront impact on the overall area or our neighbors. Excuse me. The other part of another fundamental tenet that we've been working with from day one on this project is water conservation. And again, for those of you who are not familiar with Independence, and I'll talk about this in a subsequent slide, but the infrastructure that's in place right now that is providing for water primarily is an integrated system that relies on deep aquifers, mostly in the Denver and Arapahoe Basin, not affecting any neighboring shallower well in the Dawson or the upper formations that you've probably heard in previous presentations. It is, as I mentioned before, it's integrated up front and included in our drainage plans and what we are looking at as a master drainage plan, and using that in terms of minimal water requirements in landscape areas or open space. We're also treating that water to the highest degree possible to reuse again in our system, so that that water augments what we have right now and is integrated into our irrigation system directly. So all of our parks, all of our open space, including the lots that individuals have within Independence, are served by that reclaimed or reused water within the project. So there is no potable water per se being used for irrigation. So with that, I just want to go over our first tenant here, our first chapter, the plat overview. And with that, this illustration is kind of a little bit more embellished than what you had seen in the staff packet. This shows you where filing 5 is in conjunction with the overall project. It's centrally located. It's part of an ongoing logical extension of our utilities and our infrastructure and our roads within Independence. It also highlights that, what I would call, in terms of our development strategy, the hub of the wheel. It's the centrally located subdivision. Even though they're similar in terms of lots and design, it really does represent a lot of confluence in terms of where our trails and roads come together in the middle part of this project. One thing I wanted to point out too, and I'm sure that I'm anticipating a question that may come up from the Planning Commission, but you'll note that the application covers 377 acres. The portion that you're seeing right here and the portion that you had seen in your staff report represents only 71 acres of that 377 acre site that is composed of filing 5. And without going through the history, and maybe we can talk about this in our discussion afterwards, but there's a lot of history behind that. But the actual lotted portion of this project that you would probably recognize as a typical subdivision is only a small portion of the 377 acres. The remaining portion of it, approximately 305 or whatever acres, that is left in terms of future development tracks and roadways like Elbert Road, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that's one point that I just wanted to emphasize, because I know that's probably a question. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably ask the same question. So I just want to also touch on a couple of the timelines that we have worked on since we were here last, and primarily when we were here with filing 4 over a year ago. When we started the filing 5 process, we had our community meeting almost a year ago now, June 12th of last year. And as Kelsey had mentioned in the staff report, we had several people there, and we had, that in a typical community meeting, that's not just our residents in Independence, that's the surrounding area that gets notified for that meeting. So we involved a lot of conversations with them, including people that we knew we needed to follow up with. So the outreach program, which you can see here in this middle blue arrow, a lot of that process over the year that we have taken to develop this application and get it to you tonight, a lot of that really did involve public outreach. So Jim and the craft team and the rest of the team, we were really identifying some of these points that had come up at that initial community meeting. Individual meetings were held with various people, including neighbors, not just residents of Independence, but adjoining property owners. And with that, I think that we developed a better plan and a better understanding for the region and Elbert County in general. But also within that 1-year time frame, we were also working on developing that application that we felt met all the criteria, both in your comp plan and your subdivision regulations. So you can see that the whole process it's not quick. It really does take some time and some understanding and some patience on the part of our client, but also area residents in terms of making sure that this information gets out to them and they can respond appropriately. Which leads us to tonight, August 5th, which would be our first hearing, and then as Kelsey had mentioned, we would anticipate or hope for a public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners later this month. So again, for the benefit of you who are just, that don't have much history with the Independence Project, I just want to give you a quick summary on that. The zoning for Independence was originally begun, it was referred to as the Bandera East and Bandera West PUDs, which were approved in 2009. The first major amendment, and this is when craft companies had come in and picked up this project, the first major amendment was what we have now called Independence. That's the name that we applied to this amendment, or to this rezoning application, which was basically a combination of both of those Bandera East and Bandera West PUDs. That allowed for 1,400 dwelling units, as well as several commitments that were made at that time when the PUD was approved in 2022. Now we're at the subdivision stage. The subdivision stage, and again, I hope I'm not speaking down to the planning commission, but this is where the lots are actually created after the zoning, which I'm sure those of, we've taken the time to look at your subdivision regulations. The focus of that is really creating the individual lots, the boundaries, the roads, the tracks, the trails, and everything else associated with the development, what you actually see in terms of a development out there. So that's what we're starting on right now. And our first filing number 1, was done in 2017. And then over the course of development, filings 1 through 4, we now have a total of 836 residential lots platted, lots that have been created and are under construction right now. With this new plat, as Kelsey had mentioned, 162 lots, we're now at 71% of the build-out of Independence, which is probably a significant number. It's over almost close to 3/4 of the project being built right now. And with that, I just wanted to, mention again one more time that because of our development programs and things that are going in, if you go out to Independence right now, you'll see a lot of homeowners, a lot of people with families, but you'll also see a lot of construction out there too. So it was imperative that we all as a team really emphasize this community outreach program, primarily focused within Independence to keep our residents in the loop in terms of what they would anticipate seeing over the next couple of years. So the homeowner engagement aspect of it includes a monthly newsletter that goes out to everybody, and frankly, it would go out to anybody that would ask for it, but it's primarily to the addresses within Independence. And then the board meetings, which again, as Kelsey had mentioned, there is a water and sand district, but also metro districts out there. Those board meetings are also advertised through the newsletters and other ways that allow for the area homeowners to really participate in those meetings. Jim is a member of the board, and you can probably attest that these people know that those meetings are being held. And after witnessing one of them, I know that there are still questions or people do come and participate in those discussions. Then also, as I mentioned earlier too, there are multiple meetings still ongoing with neighboring property owners. Again, informational. We try to keep our neighbors informed in this process. One aspect of this project, which I'll touch on in a minute, is the commitment to build Elbert Road from County Road 158 all the way to Singing Hills, County Road 133. I think it's 166, I'm sorry. And that involves property owners on both sides of that are not within Independence. So that involves a lot of conversations with those people as well. And then, as Kelsey had mentioned too, we also had a voluntary community meeting. We held it in the same format that the county requires, with the exception we did invite the staff, but certainly it was their choice whether they chose to participate or not. But we notified all the existing property owners within that range or radius around filing 5, as well as those residents outside of Independence. So we had a pretty good turnout a couple weeks ago. But again, it was a recap of where we are at right now, and also inviting them to come to this hearing letting them know that this was a meeting before the Planning Commission tonight. So I just want to give you a quick snapshot, too, of Independence today. As I mentioned, right now we have about 860 homes, not just the lots, but people that are living in Independence right now. And the math is, we were estimating approximately 1,000 new residents within Independence. And the people that if you haven't had a chance to come out, and regardless of what happens this evening, I would certainly invite you to come out and look at the progress that has been made and see some of the people in these various activities out there. They have several groups, including around our Homestead Park site, but festivals and neighborhood block parties and everything else. But the people that have chosen to live in Independence are not just people coming in from out of the county. There are a lot of residents that have moved in or moved from other places within Elbert County, including a large number of military personnel. So a lot of the people that we see, this 1,000 new faces, new residents of Elbert County, are actually perhaps at one time one of your neighbors. But they are very much attracted to this project and seem to really like living there. As part of that, too, I just want to, just to give a quick, the update on Delbert Road. Again, if you went out there today, you'll see construction and paving right now of Delbert Road from essentially the middle of part of the project, which is called Hancock Parkway, or what is sometimes referred to as County Road 5, all the way north to County Road 166. So part of that improvement, too, isn't just another two-lane blacktop. It's a pretty substantial piece of construction, including large culverts, drainage improvements along that whole corridor, and ultimately that would be deeded or dedicated back to the county, and portions of it that may go to Douglas County because of its proximity. But in the lower left corner picture, you can see that paving has already begun, too. In fact, emergency services could probably use that today if they chose to, but it is slated to be open, probably that first phase from County Road 5 or Hancock Parkway to County Road 166 is anticipated to be open within 2 months. So that would be a substantial improvement to the road system in Elbert County right now. And I don't need to tell any Elbert County residents that it saves probably 5 miles at a minimum off your trip time to get from point A to point B in this part of the county. Also, part of that agreement that we had initially on the Independence PUD was improving County Road 158. And currently finished with 3 miles of paving, which is not just the overlay and road construction, but it included extensive drainage improvements, intersection improvements, and widening in certain portions of it. So again, by far a much more safer road right now than it was before. And then to touch on also infrastructure, in the infrastructure category, the water and sewer improvements. Right now, today, $20 million has been invested in the sewer plant, which includes not just the water treatment wells and distribution of that water to the various subdivisions, but also includes this water reuse cycle, or water reuse system that allows for reclaimed water to be used on all irrigation within the project. That includes, again, parks, open space, and individual lots within Independence. So, and then also in terms of improvements that are currently underway, you can see this map is kind of washed out a little bit, but the green area is everything that has been platted so far and has been either developed as residential or open space or parks. I also highlighted on this graphic here that it shows the existing trail system that's within Independence right now, which one of the things that we had found out in our discussions with folks that were thinking about moving to Independence or live in Independence today, we consider Independence a very trail-centric community. Probably a greater emphasis on trails than even parks to a certain extent. Parks are certainly part of the importance of this project, but trails particularly have to be in place. And not just for the member or for the residents of Independence, but also area residents in Elbert County. So all these connections here for trails and everything else would anticipate people from adjoining subdivisions to also participate in too. So with that, I hope my summary wasn't too lengthy, but I just wanted to turn over to Carolyn White for a few concluding remarks.
Great, thank you, Mark. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of county staff, and members of the public. My name is Carolyn White, and I'm Land Use Counsel for Kraft Companies, the applicant. My role here really is just to connect the dots between what Mark shared with you about the characteristics of the application and how that links into the legal requirements. So before I get into the specific 5 criteria in the subdivision code, I wanted to just mention 3 things that the Planning Commission might like to be aware of that ensure that this project is going to comply with all of the county's requirements. So the first is the PUD conditions, and some of you were here when this PUD came before you, and there's a whole host of conditions and requirements in the PUD for what has to happen with each plat. And those conditions have all been met and complied with as evidenced in the staff analysis and in the packet and the application package that we submitted. So that's sort of the first way that you have of checking to ensure that this plat is in compliance with everything that's come before. Not only the PUD conditions, but also the preliminary plat, which is where you looked at the overlay of the whole area before we got into these individual filings 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. The second thing is the subdivision improvements agreement, which under the county code goes straight to the Board of County Commissioners, which is why it's not on your agenda tonight, but that's a legal agreement that gets recorded in the real property records against the property. And it is binding not only on this applicant, but on any subsequent purchasers. And it lays out exactly what improvements have to be constructed in what sequence. And it also obligates the applicant to post warranties and securities with the county to ensure that those improvements get constructed. As you can see, those improvements are indeed being constructed right now, and we got some photographs to show you, but that's one of the other ways that it's ensured that this application will comply with the county requirements. And then the last thing I want to mention is the additional layer of governance with the metropolitan districts and the water and wastewater district. And those already, all the districts have been already approved and already formed. And I mention them just because in prior iterations of this project and at some of the prior plat discussions, questions have been asked about, geez, how are all those trails getting maintained? How's all that open space getting maintained? Who's doing the snow removal? Who's doing the landscape removal? The landscape, replacement and maintenance. And all of that is being taken care of by the metropolitan districts at no cost to the county. So that's another way that we ensure that all of this infrastructure that's being created, all of these amenities, all of these public improvements are all going to be maintained to an appropriate standard as required by the county code. So just thought it would be worth mentioning that since you might like to know about that. All right, and then briefly, I just want to kind of close the loop here and come back to those legal criteria that Kelsey mentioned at the beginning. They're in her staff report, and we kind of touched on them at the beginning of our report. You've got 5 criteria in your code. I'm sure you've seen these all before, and I know you look at them with every plat. But want to just really emphasize the first 2 have to do with water and sewer. And obviously, those criteria are met by the provision of the 300-year water supply that was proved up at the PUD stage and the preliminary plat stage, and the approval and the will serve letter by the the Water and Sanitation District that will be providing water and sewer for this project. The third criteria has to do with making sure that any geotechnical hazards are addressed, and as Kelsey noted in her staff report, there are no geotechnical hazards identified within the filing 5 area, so that's really not applicable to this particular application before you. But the last 2, which probably are the ones we're spending the most time on, is compliance with the zoning regulation, with the subdivision regulation, and then the last one with the comprehensive plan. So I just want to mention a couple of the factors of that that demonstrate that this application is in compliance with those requirements. For example, compliance with the subdivision code means that when you review a final plat, it has to be consistent with the preliminary plat and with the PUD. One of the ways that is consistent and that is within the parameters that were approved in those documents. So total number of units, as pointed out previously. This plat application, adding 162 units, still keeps us well below the maximum number of units that was previously approved. So it's well within the compliance of that requirement. Additionally, the preliminary plat and the PUD contain a variety of requirements related to things like lot size, setbacks, open space, and all of those are complied with and set forth in this filing number 5. We have not provided a ton of detail on that. If you want to ask questions about that, we'd be happy to, go into more detail on that. But leading up to today's hearing, this application has been through, as Mark pointed out, a lengthy process of review and comment by staff. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that process where we submit, staff gives us comments, we address the comments, we resubmit, and all of that is well documented and in the record. And if you want to talk about any of those comments, we're happy to do that. And then lastly, just to mention a couple of issues that demonstrate compliance with the comprehensive plan. As Kelsey noted in her staff report, one of the key goals in the comprehensive plan has to do with residential development, in particular, providing a wide diversity of housing types, including single-family detached and clustered single-family attached housing product types. And Independence is a great example of that, and we also are continuing that forward with filing number 5. I won't go into a lot of detail about that particular goal. Maybe just to touch briefly on a couple of the other goals in the comprehensive plan. Community resources goals, providing public infrastructure, regional infrastructure. You saw the illustrations of Elbert Road there. That's one of the ways that it furthers that particular goal. Environmental conservation and preservation, as you saw, we have a tremendous amount of open space that's being created with this filing 5, as well as cumulatively total for the whole Independence subdivision. There are also economic development goals, recreation and tourism goals, but I will not list them all because they are in our application narrative. So with that, as this application demonstrates, it does meet all the criteria in the Elbert County Code. We ask for your favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and we look forward to answering your questions.
Fantastic. Any other comments from the applicant? Okay. Any citizens would like to speak on this topic? It's awful quiet in here. Okay, fantastic. With that, we will close the public portion of this and move on to the board-only discussion. We started down here last. Nicole.
Great, thanks. You know what, I'll start with a basic but obvious question. Just was curious, maybe this might be best for applicant. I noticed that in your narrative and your description, it was 163 and we updated to 162, but was just curious why the change in that number for the houses.
No, we're at the discussion portion, so you get to stand and deliver, Mark gets to stand and deliver. No, we don't need the presentation, I don't believe, at this point.
I was just going to point out the fact that right under the C of Hancock, you see there's a lot there. That was opened up for drainage. And I think one of Kelsey's maps had, you could kind of see the big yellow.
If you could talk into the microphone, please.
Sorry. So we, when we went through the engineering process and we got back and forth in comments, we lost a lot kind of up right off of Hancock Road to open that up to give more room for drainage to flow through.
I see. Okay, thank you. Wanted to ask, I know that we saw in the packet, and I think you touched on it as well, Carolyn, but that there's a subdivision improvement agreement and a development agreement that's still being negotiated or finalized. Is that right? And is that something that we would normally see to see what exactly the final arrangement is between on this plat?
So it's with our legal department at the moment, and my understanding is that he plans to handle those after approvals rather than beforehand so that they're in the packet.
I see. And how's it been in the past, as you guys have worked on the plan?
Historically, that has not been provided at Planning Commission. We're happy to do so. This SIA for filing 5 really is the same as the prior filings, with the exception of the public improvements, and the budgets for those vary just because they reflect on different pieces of land there.
Okay. So, and did I hear you say that that's something that will be finalized for the BOCC, or after the BOCC hears this land use application?
I don't want to speak for the county attorney, but my understanding from him is that he is working to get a more form-based SIA, so that it's not changing every time, which is kind of how that was handled in the past. And that has nothing to do with this applicant, just the way the county handled those, as it was kind of on a case-by-case basis. So the new county attorney is working to make a more standardized form for the SIA, and I believe he told me that they will be completed following the approval, meaning executed, right? Because it's kind of this balance about people don't want to sign before
Yeah, I was just wondering if they would have it for
it's a chicken
review and
situation.
discussion with the county attorney.
I believe it probably could be, but it would be up to the county attorney if that's done and provided for BOCC. Ultimately, they do approve it, so if it's with this materials in the packet, it'd be up to him.
Okay.
And we would anticipate that would go in front of the BOCC to be approved at the same time as the filing.
Okay. Great. I did have a question. I was looking at the referral comments, and I did see that OEM had a recommendation for development approval, and it wasn't something that we discussed either in the staff report or in the presentation. And so since it was something that one of the county departments brought up, I want to just specifically say that they requested that as part of the approval process, that the developer would designate 10 to 15% of the properties, deeding, restricting them to first responders, teachers, and local government employees. Just noting that obviously having these community members living in the community is helpful to our county. So I just wanted to, I don't think that we saw anything if you guys gave a response to that comment, but maybe you could comment on it now.
We did give a response, and we have since talked to the person in OEM who was new at the time. That's really a zoning request, and that's something that you kind of bake into the overall process, and not something that we would put into a plat.
Okay, but when you're talking about the zoning, you're talking about like the steps that have already taken place.
Correct.
Because I do know, I think there were discussions from your company saying that you wanted to make sure that folks like first responders and others were able to afford to live in this community.
Correct.
And so I don't know, I mean, I saw the one picture of the military person with his young family, but was just curious if you happen to know of those. I think you said it was 860 or so homes that are finished, or at least
those are
platted out.
Lots that are sold.
Was it 560? Correct. Okay. So the 560, do you have a percentage of how many folks might fall into that first responder, since those were discussions that you had as applicants when we rezoned?
We, first of all, we don't have a program, nor does the county have a program of deed restricting. So there isn't like a Title VIII or a program that is a low-income housing program in the county. And so we have not gone down that road, but we do have programs for first responders, for teachers, and a number of, I'll say, kind of young professionals in the county. But it's not a deed-restricted program.
Yeah, I don't think I was asking whether or not you offered low-income housing, but more like, are there goals that you have in your community, or have you kept track of that kind of commitment that you made at the time? Maybe it wasn't an exact number, but have you kept track of in the community if there are folks like that who are living in your development?
Yeah, that's not we didn't commit to like a percentage. And so we don't track that. There's a lot of new requirements around privacy of information, so it's really hard for us to kind of gather that information. But we do offer programs through all the builders for those types of families. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying somewhat of what you are doing in that, related to that question. Wanted to ask, because it was brought up during the discussion, that kind of some of the goals of the company, one of them related to smart growth, which I think included a subpoint of like walkability and cluster development. But wanted to just clarify, because I couldn't really tell in this new plat, but I've been over in this area before, and I think I've noticed, and I'm not sure for all of your plats, but I've noticed in at least some of them that they don't have sidewalks. So on the one hand, you talk about having access to trails, which is nice, but if it's difficult to get from your house to the trail because there's not a sidewalk in your cluster of homes, is that something that are you planning on having sidewalks in this new plat, even if you didn't have it in old ones? And just how do you assess that walkability?
Yeah, so we don't have sidewalks in the community at all. There is we call it a trail. It is a paved trail, so you could consider it a sidewalk that goes along Hancock, which is kind of a high active area. But the roads are built to allow people to walk. They're not straight roads, they're very low speed, and so you effectively, within the neighborhood, kind of walk on the side of the road, and that kind of keeps the traffic calm, and that keeps, and people can get to the trails, so that this community was not designed as kind of an urban sidewalk community.
Okay, I guess I see it less as an urban feature, but more of a safety feature. When I've driven through here, because the driveways are so short, you end up having a good number of, I think, residents who park on the road. So instead of navigating the road, you're navigating cars while also trying to navigate the road. And sometimes I think because there's cars on both sides, it can make it very difficult for two cars to pass while there's cars parked on the sidewalk. So I guess for me, it's more of a safety concern, if that's something that the company has taken into account for its residents.
Yeah, that's all by design, and if you talk to traffic planners, this is a much safer configuration, because if you build roads too wide, then cars tend to drive faster and they don't have to pay attention. This requires, when you're driving through a neighborhood, to pay attention to all of the different things that are in there, and that conflict gets cars to slow down, and that minimizes accidents and improves safety significantly.
Okay, well, thanks for your feedback on that. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the traffic study, and in particular because I know part of this, land use application has to do with the bottom part of Elbert Road connecting to 158. And wanted to ask, I know the last time I think that this was presented, the company had said that they were going to have that straight line. Were there any talks about moving it over within your company before you did that? Because I'm assuming that there's an assumption that the bottom part was going to get approved regardless. Just wondering, were there any discussions with the county before you moved it in to the development?
Yeah, that was really driven by Douglas County, Elbert County, fire, and police. So we've had a significant number of meetings and conversations about where that should connect and why. Fire, it was Elizabeth Fire, was very adamant to bring it up to the top of the hill, if you're kind of familiar with that area. As you go west from where it is currently depicted, it's at the top of a hill and it goes down a hill there, and that's been very unsafe. And so there were a lot of conversations about what type of intersection and where that should connect to kind of improve the safety. Because Elbert right where the arrow is at on 158, where Delbert goes south is not paved, then the county was comfortable that having that connection be disconnected with it and not be a four-way. So we effectively followed their direction. They had representing them, Kimley Horn, who is their consultant, their engineering consultant.
And I am familiar with that area because I do drive that road very often into Parker from where I live. And as you pointed out, there is that really tall hill. In fact, you lose sight. You can't see like what's happening on the other side of that hill. And in fact, you have to be very careful. I've got a 16-year-old who just started driving on her own. And I'm always mindful of, as you come up over that hill, be careful because, you've got two cars just going straight at each other. And if you don't stay in your own lane, it could be a head-on collision. So my concern is I didn't read anything or see anything about any turning lane there, particularly because of that school. I saw that there's the proposed school site.
Correct.
I'm guessing that you're going to be attracting not just families from Elbert County, but potentially families from Douglas County as well for that school. And so my concern is traffic and building up there on that hill, or potentially waiting to be able to turn left into that road. Could be, a cause for concern for a lot of families who drive that road. And no, it's very busy.
Yes, and we absolutely agree. And again, we are really deferring to the county and their consultant along with our consultant. There we go. We use a consultant called LSC, and the county uses Kimley Horn. And so I think between them, they're two good consultants who are trying to evaluate how best to handle that traffic through there.
So can I ask then, by approving this plat?
Hang on just a second.
Oh.
Hey, Wendy, we're not getting sound out or video. Keep going.
Okay. By approving this plat today, are there going to be future discussions about what it looks like with the connection to 158, or is it just going to stay as is?
No, this part of this plat, and again, as Mark kind of touched on, really is just the lotting in the center. The reason we kind of included the Delbert Road North piece is that design was approved by the county, and again, Kimley Horn, to go up to Singing Hills from the intersection of Hancock and Delbert Road has not been fully designed. We've had quite a few conversations about it. Even though the intersection has moved east further into Elbert County, Douglas County is still at the table on that because there is, whatever we do, wherever we connect, we're still going to have to regrade all the way down through that intersection into Douglas County. So that's going to have to be a larger fix. And there are still ongoing conversations about what would be best for the area.
Okay, so
That's
that
not a
lower
part of
portion, that lower portion is still in discussion, and it's not a part of what we're approving tonight,
That is correct.
or how it connects to any other county road down there.
Yes, in particular, how it connects to 158.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Thank you. And then I had one other question. We had documents included in our packet that had to do with an agreement that the developer is making with the fire department about, I think how I read it was that the fire department is going to need additional resources in order to be able to take care of this new subdivision within Independence. And so the agreement was for 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff person for 6 months. And then after that, that's it. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because it seems to me that obviously the need of the fire district is going to last a lot longer than 6 months. So can you just talk a little bit more about how you came to that agreement with the fire district?
Yeah, so the north component of Delbert connecting up to Singing Hills One of the driving factors of that was to allow the fire department that has a substation existing and manned, staffed up on Singing Hills to be able to cut through and serve down to the south and reduce their response times. Because Delbert Road was not completed in time, and part of that was ongoing conversations with the fire department and the county staff, that was intended to be kind of a temporary fix. Once that opens up, and it is open, as Mark said, for fire use. So now that it's open, that additional staffing down to the south is not required.
Okay. So it was while you were working on this road?
Until we got it open. It's not fully paved. It's about 60% paved, but they can still use it because it's fully graded and it's accessible. It's not really open to the public. It's not intended to be open to the public, but it is very usable. It's all surface, and like in the winter, we should get done here in the next couple months, but if it snowed, we'd be able to plow it. We'd be able to keep it maintained for fire access.
Okay. And I forgot to ask this last question about the traffic study, if you'll just bear with me on it. I saw that the traffic study, I believe it's about a year old, and it was based on about 360 homes. At least that's what it said. So it said that the project would generate 21,000 vehicle trips on an average weekday, and that these estimates include trips from 360 homes that have been completed and are occupied. I'm just wondering, if you intend to have a traffic study that's actually updated, since we're now almost double that amount, but obviously there's going to be a whole lot more in terms of obviously discussions about that northern route, but also about that southern route and the amount of people that you're going to potentially have using Delbert Road.
Okay. If I understand the question right, at the time the study was done, there were a number of occupied homes, but it then projected all of the remaining homes in earlier filings plus filing 5 on top of that. So it does look at all of the traffic that this filing would bring on top of those homes.
Does it look at the full 1,400 homes or just this filing with the others?
Yeah, it basically is a subset that updates the master plan of the full 1,400 homes.
Okay, so the 21,000 vehicle trips on an average day is reflective of if you're fully built out at 1,400 homes?
I'm not sure what you're referencing there, so I'm not.
I'm referencing the traffic report.
I understand.
I'm trying to understand that number. How many homes does that number reflect?
I'll have to look that up. I don't know that answer.
Do you know that? Does anyone else know that answer?
Yeah.
I mean, it's right from the traffic study.
It would be full build out, and then it also gets amended after every.
So if you want to answer that.
It gets amended after every filing comes online, and they do new traffic counts to see on the existing infrastructure.
So if it gets amended after each filing, then that means the one from a year ago was based on a year ago's houses and filings, not this filing as well, or any future filing.
It would have been based off the existing counts and the full build out.
It would have just been built off the existing.
No, it's the evaluation is for future projections. That's part of the key of the traffic study. So if there's probably a 20, 50-year plan in there.
Maybe if you could point it out to me. I read it in several different places that it said that the estimates include trips from 360 homes that have been completed and are occupied.
Completed and occupied.
And occupied.
But there's a full build out of the 1,400 units. So that's indicating current conditions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Maybe.
I think what it says, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm a lawyer, but it includes the 362 homes, but it is not only the 362 homes. It is all of the homes, including the 362 that have already been built.
Maybe, I mean, I would just recommend maybe getting clarification from your traffic people about it, because it wasn't that clear when, I mean, I read the traffic report as well, and it wasn't clear to me that that included the entire build-out. Okay, that's all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Diana?
I don't have any questions. I have some comments, but I wasn't clear where we are at in the hearing process, because I think you said this is the board-only discussion, but that doesn't seem to be, help me out here.
Board talking to the applicants, talking to the staff, talking to the elements associated with the overarching plan. So please feel free to share your comments.
Okay. And my comments are basically the same as they were for the last application, which is that there are multiple documents that are required per the zoning regulations that haven't been provided, and that I just want to bring that up because that will impact how I vote on this application, because I don't believe we have a complete packet. That's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
I have a comment, then I have a few questions. And the comment doesn't require a response, and it's not an attempt to rehash what's happened in the past regarding this development. But Independence has always been a bit of a head scratcher for me. We've been here for 28 years, and you know, and I'm a new commissioner, but one of the things that I've learned is that, you know, typically developments, and this is a higher density development, has to pass a compatibility test. And when I look where Independence is, and the fact that it's pretty much surrounded by acreage, agriculture, things like that, you know, it's always perplexed me how it was originally approved, but obviously it's approved. And so, you know, like I say, we've been here for 28 years, and now we have a view of Independence at night with the lights on, during the day with the houses. And so we've seen how development can change, you know, our lifestyle. And we understand that, you know, the county is growing, all of those things, but that's just a comment. I'd like to get a better understanding of the kind of the time frame for the development. So basically, if I heard correctly, the first 4 phases were approved for, is it 836 homes?
Correct.
Okay. And did I hear that 352 have been completed? Or a number thereabouts?
Approximately 560.
Oh, 560. Well, I'm hard of hearing, so. And then with these additional houses, I also heard the fact that, you know, this is, you know, ultimately approved for 1,400 houses.
Correct.
Okay. So with these additional houses, that's 71%.
Correct.
Okay. When I, again, being a new commissioner, when I see that plot 5, I also see final up there several times. What does that mean? What does final mean? Because I guess my interpretation is this is the final plot, but that the numbers, the arithmetic doesn't bear that out. What am I not understanding?
I believe the reference to final would be that this would be the final plat for filing 5, not the final for the whole community.
Okay.
What is before you tonight is a subset of the whole thing that is just filing 5.
Okay. So then with, you know, with 836 approved, 560 built, what is important about the timing to get approval for plot number 5 at this stage of the game in the greater scheme of things?
So a couple things, and that's a good question. And I think you could probably see that more from staff's map, because they kind of took an aerial and you could see the houses. What's happening currently is filing 4, which is just to its north, and it was approximately 140 units. We put in all the roads, all of the stormwater, water lines, wastewater lines. So we spent about a year developing that land. And now it is starting to sell homes and we'll build homes on filing 4. So now we're moving into filing 5. That will take at least another 12 to 15 months to develop that land. And lots will be available then in probably late 26, early 27. So that's why the timing, and again, Mark talked about the timing of the process here. We actually started on this project in 2023 on filing 5. We started the design, we went through the process, we submitted it in March of 24 and have gone through. So there's a lengthy process before we would get to lots that would be finished where you could build a house on, is, probably a 3.5 or 4 year timeline.
Okay, you've saved a question, because I was going to ask you to kind of lay out the time frame, what, lot 5 looks like. Talking about the water reclamation, and the fact that you're reclaiming and recycling a lot of the water for irrigation purposes. Approximately what percent of the domestic water are you able to reclaim and reuse for irrigation? And does that take care of all the irrigation or a percentage of the irrigation for the residents?
So I can only speak kind of to date because we haven't finished the build out, but we reclaim initially 100%. We do not discharge any water off site. So all the water that is brought into the potable water system is treated and put into irrigation ponds. Then there is some system loss that is evaporation. All our ponds are lined, so that helps minimize that. But there's still a 10 to 15% just system loss that is inevitable unless you would, put it like back down into the aquifer, which, there's some complications with things like that as well. So we take all the water that is run through the house, sent back out of the house, we capture it. We're the only community that once that's cleaned and captured, pipe it back to the houses for outdoor use. So it is strictly just outdoor use, but it is used on the yards and outdoor use, as well as parks and Mark referenced open space. We typically only water open space to revegetate it. We don't continue to water it. And so all of that covers all of our needs, all of our outdoor needs.
Okay, so maybe I didn't understand what you said. So I think it's great what you're doing, reclaiming all of that. I like that a lot. But what percentage of the residential irrigation comes from the reclaimed water?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you anticipate that will continue to be at that level throughout the build-out?
Correct.
Okay. One final question. I'm trying to figure out Elbert Road. So, I drive down Singing Hills all the time. I see the dirt work that's being done on Elbert. What area is being paved? What is phase 1? I think I misunderstood that. And what's phase 2?
Okay. So coming from Singing Hills, if you drive south, that will all be paved down to where it connects to Hancock. That would be phase 1. So you will have, that road will open, instead of going all the way down to 158 somewhere. Currently, to be able to come from Singing Hills down, you would have to go down Elbert and then around on Hancock. That would be phase 1.
Okay, you've clarified that.
Yeah, phase 2
So
is just taking that.
what's the timing of phase 2?
So phase 2 is in design right now. We would like to get started next spring, and it's not a terribly long road, so if we can get started in the spring, we'd like to have it done by next year.
I would assume there would be concern among the residents that until Phase 2 is completed, that people who are heading, into town, so to speak, or heading basically out south, are going to take Elbert Road, the Hancock Parkway, and drive through the development to get to 158. If I was a homeowner, I'd be concerned about that.
We have had a number of conversations with the homeowners. We definitely hear that message. We will have some traffic calming measures through there. We'll monitor the speeds quickly, but it is a county road. As a part of our commitment, we built it and we paid for it, but it will be dedicated to the county, and it is their road, so it is open to anybody in the public.
So you're paying for the cost of Delbert Road, Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Correct.
And you're also paying for the resurfacing of the portion of 158 that you described.
Correct, that is done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Dan. Dee Dee?
Yeah, so just looking at your traffic analysis, I've reviewed my fair share of these. And actually, I believe it was a little over 21,000 cars is your guys' projected 2045 kind of projection of vehicles, right?
Okay.
And what the national average right now per household, I think, is 2.2 vehicles per household. Does that sound right to you guys? So
Yeah.
I'm just, realistically, the traffic analysis goes above and beyond because 21,000, I mean, if you took 1,400 homes times 2.2 times 2 on that, I mean, you're still substantially less than that 21,000. So I take it the traffic analysis projection also includes external, outside types, communities going through that as well in the future, correct?
Correct. And just to clarify that, they look at trips, not vehicles. So there are more trips per house, maybe running the kids to school and back, and maybe
Yeah, and even with the national average of 2.2 vehicles per household, I mean, you're still substantially higher. So I do appreciate that projection.
It's conservative, I think.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that projection. It could go another 20 years out, but besides that, I have no other questions. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I have no questions.
You have no
No
question?
question.
Okay, thank you. I thought you said I have a question. I
No,
was like,
I'm
wait.
sorry. I don't have any.
Okay, go ahead, Dee Dee.
I just want to ask, if I'm reading stuff correctly, is the plan at Delbert, when it used to dead end there?
Could you move the microphone closer to you? Sorry.
That's okay. Usually I'm getting yelled at that I'm talking too loud. Is the plan where Delbert comes to, up to Singing Hills, and you're starting your stuff beyond, is that scheduled to have a roundabout at that juncture?
I don't think a final determination has been made, but that is actually a Douglas County improvement, and we paid a impact fee to Douglas County for our share of that. They are working with Elbert County to determine whether that would be a lighted intersection, and if so, who maintains that, or if it's going to be a roundabout.
Don't want a roundabout there. That's an awful place for a roundabout. Just awful. So, thank you for clearing that up.
How's the population growth in the area going? How are the houses selling? You've got, without adding the additional plot, you've got 276 houses, give or take a few, that left to build in that process. How's the sales going in the area?
So sales have remained reasonably strong. They definitely have softened this year. I think we're in this kind of a waiting period to see what happens with interest rates. prior, I'll say the last 18 months, builders were buying down interest rates, not seeing much of an end in sight, and now they're kind of feel like it's an end in sight, maybe 6 months. So it has slowed down some, and that's pretty typical in the summer as well. But overall, get a lot of positive feedback on the community and builder interest. All of our remaining lots are under contract with builders. They're in some variation of that, so there's certainly interest from the builders to continue on.
Got it. And as you're looking economically at the situation, are you also accounting for the fact that they are predicting 50% slower growth? So what's happening in Elbert County is people are moving from Aurora, from Parker, from whomever, and moving into our county?
I don't know that we're factoring that in specifically, but we are able to, we kind of talked about our phased development. We'll go into this filing 5, and if we need to pause or slow down, we have the ability to do that.
On the clustered and attached, what's percentage in filing 5 or plat 5?
We have no attached product in filing 5.
Thank you. I was a little concerned because I heard them talking about we're going to go ahead and add attached, and I'm like, okay, didn't ring a bell for this area.
You can kind of see from at least the lot configuration, they're very similar to all the prior filings.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think that's the last question I had. Would you consider as stipulation adding sidewalks? I hate the idea. I like the comment about safety. I think it's odd that you don't. And walkability in the neighborhood. I walk in my neighborhood on a regular basis, and I almost get run over at least twice a week by people that are going way the hell too fast. But my roads are not very wide, so.
Yeah, and again, this whole community has been designed that way for a reason. There's a significant amount of studies and information that show this is a much safer neighborhood for that reason. People cannot drive as fast. They've got to, really slow down, and it's kind of managed by the residents. The majority of the people want to keep it that way. It's not something that we can certainly go back and retrofit in. There are utility easements and all kinds of other things along with that, but that's how this community was designed and overall land plan, and it's not a cost consideration. It's not, believe it or not, it's not cheaper to be without sidewalks because we have to manage our stormwater differently. But it's a style and approach that has worked really well. It's been well received.
Mark, you mentioned that the community turnout was significant in the last outreach a couple weeks ago. What was that turnout? What's the number if you don't have that up?
So 2 weeks was about 25 people. Again, that's because it's in the middle of the community. That's a mix of existing homeowners now, where a year ago it was probably more from surrounding neighbors. There were some neighbors to our northwest that came down and talked to us, but we meet with our residents monthly and have a lot of dialogue and a lot of interaction on all different kinds of things. So they're quite frankly less interested in this filing 5 than they are the maintenance of landscaping and things like that.
Got it. Probably not a requirement for staff, but why wasn't staff? Why didn't staff go to the community meeting?
I just don't believe we had a staff person available at that particular time. It didn't count as a required meeting. Another one wasn't required. In other words, so the applicants chose to pursue doing an additional meeting on their own.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
We kind of look at that as an early adoption of where we think is maybe coming based on prior hearings that we've listened to.
With that, I have no other questions.
Mr. Chair, I thought of one other one I wanted to ask.
Sure.
And this kind of relates to the conversation even about sidewalks, because I know I've met a grandma in Independence who was saying that she was lamenting the fact that when her grandkids came over, she had nowhere to safely walk with them because there was no sidewalk and she couldn't put them on a tricycle on the road walking next to her. But the reason why I bring up that story is the attorney mentioned that there are layers of oversight with the Metro District, and I wanted to inquire as to whether or not there are any residents that are unrelated to craft companies who are now sitting on the board for any of your metro districts, because I do think that accountability within your community is very important, of course, since they're the ones who are going to be paying back all of these loans that are being taken out.
Yes, so our Metro District number 1 has a majority of residents on it. As a matter of fact, I'm the only non-resident on that board. That Metro District, we have 7, and so filing 5 will be in 5, and then 6 and 7. We also have a commercial district. As these neighborhoods populate and people come in, then they will start to populate those metro districts. We also have an overlay district that it's an operational district, so they kind of manage landscape maintenance and trails and parks and things like that. So that's really more of a community overlay. And they have 3 seats. We just added 2 new residents to that board.
So each of your Metro District boards have how many members?
So they're either a 5 or a 7 board member. The overlay is a 7-seat board, and the Metro districts are 5-seat boards.
Okay. And you said for at least one of those Metro districts that's not the overlay, you have a majority, so 3.
Correct.
And then in your others are?
We have four residents on Metro District number 1. That really is the first filing, so that's where, the majority of the residents live right now is in that first village. Yeah, the ones that don't have residents on are basically ones that don't have homes built on them. Or
well, you have more than just that one file. Like, which one was filing 1?
So
the lower right?
Yeah, it's on both sides of Hancock as it comes up in there, but it's kind of that whole big southeast corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you do have some in that lower middle, right by...
We do, and we have residents from that village on the board, just not a majority yet.
Okay. So of all of your metro districts, how many residents would you say are sitting members of a board right now? Just off the top of your head. Doesn't have to be perfect.
I would say 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's really important, and the sooner that you can move to getting the residents who are not affiliated with craft companies but are living there in charge of managing that, I think it helps your case.
We agree, and we really encourage it. It's actually pretty uncommon this early in a project to have that many residents involved. But what we have done is continue to have events and gatherings and activities where we're bringing everybody together, and we do encourage them to come on the board. And if somebody wants to run, then we will step off so that typically we don't even have to hold an election. However many residents want to participate, we will open up those seats.
Any more? Any final questions? So I'll entertain a motion on Independence Filing 5 Final Plat FP 2024-7515.
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case FP-2024-7515, subject to the following conditions as recommended in the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Dee Dee Schott-Grace. Aye. John Gresham.
Aye.
Nicole Hunt.
Nay, I believe that the land use application fails to meet the criteria set out in ECSR Article 2C, D, and E.
Thank you. Kyle DiNardo,
Aye.
Dan McCallum, Diana Edstrom,
No, and again, the reason being that in my review of this application, I found that we did not have all of the required documents per the zoning regulations.
Kevin Kirkwood,
I'm also a nay. I'm aligned with the fact that it doesn't follow the process associated with the ECZR as outlined by Nicole. I think that fills the gap, and I hate to say it, but I look out there and I see this growth, and it does not fit the community. It's literally sitting out there, and it looks like well, I'll just leave it at that. It's a very noticeable community. That's the nice way to say it.
results 4 aye, 3 nay.
Thank you, and appreciate your time. We are going to take let's take a 10-minute recess. Come back here at 9:15. So let's go ahead and reconvene. The crowd has left, the maddening crowd has left. So let's open up the public hearing for Chevelle rezone RZ 2025-001 and staff report. And are you sure we want to do these separate? Because you're going to do a lot of repeat on the...
Correct. It will be a lot of repeat. There's 2 presentations. So what I could do is go through probably the first half of this rezone presentation, jump to the preliminary plat application, because the start of the preliminary plat and the end of it are essentially the same. There's different review criteria for them. There's review criteria for the rezone that's shown in the presentation, and then they're separate for the preliminary. So it's entirely up to the chair.
Yeah, why don't we combine those 2 elements together?
Okay.
As you suggested, and we will vote on them separately.
Okay.
To keep them concise, but I don't want you going back through and repeating a whole bunch of stuff, and I think it
sure
helps the applicant out as well as we go through this.
So I will then navigate, which hopefully makes the most sense. So then I will start with the first half of the application. So this is the Chevelle rezone portion. Again, Kelsey Lanham for the record. This is case number RZ-2025-0001. So for the rezone and the preliminary plat, the subject property is parcel number 62313000025. The applicants are Mike Bennett and Casey Gelati. The site size is 306 acres. It's currently zoned agriculture. They are requesting to rezone the entire parcel from agriculture to agriculture residential for the purpose of future development, which will be shown in that preliminary plat. So this project timeline is for the rezone and the preliminary plat. The pre-application meeting was in June of 2024. Their community meeting was in December of, that should say 2024. They are not time travelers, sorry about that. So in December of 2024, 2 review cycles. That happened March to April of 2025, and then again in April to May of 2025. They are scheduled to go to the BOCC on August 27th for both the rezone and the preliminary plat application. All public notice requirements were met per the zoning regulations and subdivision regulations for the preliminary plat. the community meeting, outside of the applicants and Elbert County staff, there were 2 residents. Comments and questions that came up were water, mineral rights, open space requirements, conservation, roads, wetlands, and an HOA. Since that community meeting, no comments have been received for the rezone or the preliminary plat. These are the agencies that reviewed and responded to the application, both for the rezone and preliminary plat. They were sent concurrently. There are no outstanding objections or concerns from these agencies. So this is an aerial view, not the clearest picture, but the property is accessed by Comanche Creek Road. There are no existing structures on the property. Looking at the zoning map, so obviously the subject property is the one with the red star on it. EC East is approximately 2 miles to the west of the subject property. It's zoned planned unit development. And then to the northwest of the subject property, in that top right corner of the picture, you can see a start of a cluster of AR zone properties as well. And this is their lovely rezone exhibit. As you can see, it's pretty straight to the point. The property line is outlined in red, and they are requesting to rezone the entire property from the agriculture to agriculture residential. At this point, I will probably switch over to the preliminary plat, and then I can jump back and do the review criteria for both. So just bear with me for one moment. And here is their preliminary plat. They are proposing 24 10-acre lots. The subdivision will have just over 20% of open space, which meets the regulation requirements, and an HOA will be formed for the subdivision as well. At this time, a subdivision improvement agreement has not been submitted, as it's not required with the preliminary plat, but this application will have to come back before the PC, and at that time, depending on, legal counsel opinions, that subdivision improvement agreement may be included with PC, or at that time, the BOCC will see that directly. And just for clarification, so these 2 applications, the rezone and preliminary plat, they are going concurrently. Obviously, without approval of the rezone, the preliminary plat cannot happen. So just keep that in mind when this goes to BOCC, that a recommendation or a final approval of the rezone has to occur in order for the preliminary plat to move forward to a final plat. And now going back to what is happening? Hold on. Too much switching. Okay, here we go. So for the rezone, the review criteria are found in the Elbert County zoning regulations, Article 3C4. Just like the other presentations tonight, these are summarized. So A, the proposed rezone is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This rezone is consistent with the goals and policies, with the comprehensive plan in particular. the goal RD residential development. The proposed rezoning would allow for those 10-acre minimum lot sizes, which would create a variety of lot sizes within the vicinity of the subject property. B, the proposed rezone is compatible with surrounding land uses. Surrounding properties are zoned agriculture, which have a 35-acre minimum. However, there are developments to the west that are zoned for smaller lot sizes. This proposed zone district was found to be compatible with the surrounding land due to that 10-acre minimum lot size. C, the rezone would not adversely impact the provision of public services. Kiowa Fire District was a referral agency and had no objections or concerns for this rezone. D, the rezone would not adversely impact the environment. Division of Water Resources, and like I just mentioned, Kiowa Fire did not know any concerns about environmental impact, and adequate water was found for this project. E, the rezone would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Elbert County Public Works was a referral agency and had no objections on rezoning the property. F, the rezone would not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare to the inhabitants of Elbert County. Numerous agencies reviewed both applications, and there were no concerns for the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County regarding health, safety, or welfare. Let's see. Now I have to jump to the preliminary plat review criteria. Okay, so for the preliminary plat, the review criteria is going to be found in the Elbert County Subdivision Regulations, Article 2C. Once again, these are summarized. So the first one is A, evidence that provision has been made for a water supply that is sufficient. The preliminary plat was reviewed by the Division of Water Resources, and there was no objection noted to water sufficiency. B, evidence that provision has been made for sewage disposal. The proposed lots will be serviced by individual septic systems as allowed by the Elbert County Subdivision Regulations. Elbert County Public Health reviewed the proposed plats and had no objections to the use of septic systems. Proper permitting, of course, will be required, though. C, evidence to show all areas that may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards. There are no existing soil conditions that present hazards or require special precautions. Colorado Geological Survey was a referral agency and had no objections or concerns for the rezone or the preliminary plat. D, the application is in compliance with the Elbert County zoning regulations and subdivision regulations. The proposed plat is in compliance with the subdivision regulations and zoning regulations. For the preliminary plat, of course, this is pending approval of the rezone application. And finally, E, the application is consistent with the intent, policies, and goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The proposed plat, like I mentioned, for the rezone, it's consistent with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, specifically that RD residential development goal. This supports residential development. It would allow for those various lot sizes and higher residential density within that area. Considerations for decision is essentially the same for both the rezone and the preliminary plat. So those items to consider are the surrounding properties are zoned agriculture and planned unit development. The open space requirement has been met. Applicants addressed all initial concerns from the review agencies. approval of a final plat will be required. A subdivision improvement agreement or an SIA will be fully executed at time of final plat, and no public comment has been received. The potential conditions of approval, these two are going to be the same for the rezone and the preliminary plat. The applicant shall remove signs within 2 weeks of the conclusion of all notified meetings, public hearings, or decisions. Signs not removed within 2 weeks may be removed by Elbert County subject to reasonable charges. And 2, recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioners approval. Just to save, a couple minutes and switching back and forth, the other potential condition of approval for the rezone was that the rezone does not become effective until all fees are paid, those conditions of approval are met, and it is recorded. As you can see, the applicants are present tonight to speak and answer any questions. Staff is also available to answer any questions regarding the rezone or the preliminary plat. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? Applicants?
Thank you. My name is Michael Bennett.
No relation, right?
These newfangled things. My name is Michael Bennett. My residence is 1925 South Timberline in Fort Collins, Colorado. Thank you guys for being here, everybody. Thank you to CDS. They've been wonderful, like everybody said, and they really have been. One of the things that I want to address, a couple things that actually kind of came up in some of the previous conversations, because they're very important when we are looking at a property, when we're looking at a development property especially. I think the term spot zoning, where I come from, we call it urban sprawl. And it's a very destructive thing, and it's important that we recognize that. When we were looking at identifying this property, we looked at what the EC East PUD was, where it was located, and then where the natural growth for development would be, and how to kind of contain that. And I've talked with Jim Kraft and his team multiple times about how we contain the development in this area to 166 between Kiowa Bennett Road and Comanche Creek Road, north to 178. So we have a hub instead of having this spot zoning. It's very important. It's important to the farming and ranching community and other people that live in this community. A little background on me. Again, my name is Michael Bennett. 6th generation here in Colorado. The town of Bennett, Colorado was named after my great uncle, Hiram P. Bennett. So I'm very familiar with Colorado and the ranching lifestyle. We used to run cattle from Lyman to Colorado Springs. Water is at the forefront of everything we do. The first thing that, before we even bought this property and we were working with CDS, the first thing I said is I want to be a net positive when it comes to water resources with this community for the existing people, not only in the direct area, but in all of Elbert County and actually outside of Elbert County. When we looked at this property, we saw a substantial benefit that we had water dedication to the Arapahoe Basin as well as Denver. Denver's obviously very taxed along with some of the shallower aquifers. What our water plan actually is, if you look through it, we're going to be using Arapahoe Basin water. The reason that that's important when we're using a septic system is that septic and leach field is the returnable to the aquifer, right? That's our regeneration or our resupply of the aquifer. Well, by pulling out of the Arapahoe aquifer, we do not have a resupply requirement with that aquifer. But with the septic and with the septic and leach system that we have in place, that will actually be returning 70% of the water from the Arapahoe Basin into the Denver aquifer, which is what most people are using, especially on some of the deeper ag wells that our producers use. So that was very important because of our location, altitude-wise to Wolf Creek, which is a little bit lower than us and close by. If we were using the Denver Basin, which was an option, that water would be leaching back into the Wolf Creek and be tributary water, and then we would be losing that from our aquifer. So that was something we recognized very early, and I'm really glad that my goal of being a net positive to our water basins is coming to fruition. One thing also, our traffic study is done by the same people, and I'm very happy to say that it is including our future development of these 24 lots. Usually traffic studies are what's existing, but it's planned on for the future, and if that wasn't clear, I want to clarify that with ours, that is 100% what the case is. We chose 10-acre lots for a couple reasons. We feel like where EC East is, it's going to be a very high impact, obviously development. There needs to be some softening. And contain that, because otherwise, and again, I work with people like Jim all the time and Craft Company all the time, and they do what they do and we do what we do. But there has to be, if we didn't buy this piece of property and we didn't rezone this piece of property, it's obviously in the path of development, and it would have been brought and developed into a higher density subdivision. So this is kind of our little protest in saying, that's great, but we need to soften the blow a little bit. The other part is the open space. Instead of deed in lieu, cash in lieu of open space, it was important for us to, with this community, especially still being rural, still having a rural feel with 10-acre lots. Big open space was very important to us. Also, we were talking the sidewalk discussion. I think that's, I agree. I think that's, I haven't seen a study that they've referred to that says that that's safer, but I know for us it was important to connect every lot to the park system and to the open space system. So you will notice in our preliminary plat that there is a green belt that circles around our loop that is dedicated for equestrian walk traffic and for other uses to meet that requirement, because I do believe even in a smaller subdivision, it's nice to be able to have your grandchildren ride their bike, or in a case like this, maybe more of a four-wheeler or their horses or whatever. So that is important, and I wanted to make sure that you saw that that is addressed as well.
Great, that's all your comments. Would you like to speak as well? Okay, good. We don't have the public here, so we move directly to the board-only discussion. John, do you want to start us off?
I have no questions on it.
Okay, Kyle?
Yeah, just a couple to clarify. So part of the 20% of open space is that green belt for equestrian use that goes around, right?
Correct.
And then the rest of the open space is kind of just spaced out. Okay.
So you'll see track E and track B, and then you'll see and A, D, and C.
Okay. Will be 50 feet. No, it does a good job, and you guys call it on your master plan too. So the goal for this is to eventually have an HOA?
Correct.
What is your plan then for builder? Do you want one builder or these custom built?
Actually, we've had quite a bit of demand already. We have multiple lots already reserved for when that time comes. We'd like to use as many local builders as we can. And that's where, if we've had to solicit, and we haven't actually had to solicit, but all of the builders that have come to us are local, and including excavation for roadway and all of our monumentation will be done by local contractors as well. And that sounds great, and it's good spend and everything, but obviously it's more efficient as well, so might as well keep it local too.
Okay. No, that's great. I mean, I really don't have any other questions for you. My only thing is, I mean, this is the kind of residential development that I like to see. I think 10-acre lots is great. I think it fits the surrounding area. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Yes, thanks. I agree with Kyle that this is the kind of thing that we're looking for. Are you going to, you asked for an HOA. Is it going to have a metro district?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
we have done very hard work, and I think 90% of my job has been fundraising because it's important from the get-go. Both Casey and I are real estate agents. We own our own brokerage, And one of the things that we say is friends don't let friends buy in metro districts. So,
Thank you.
with that said, we have funded this out of our pockets because we do not want a metro district.
Perfect, I'm happy about that then, I have no more questions.
Great, thank you. Dan? No questions.
Same comment I've been making is, again, in the review of the application, I found that we do not have all of the required documents per the zoning regulations to make a good decision on this, and I can address that again when we vote. Thank you.
Well, first, I just wanted to say thanks for, your speech at the beginning and hitting some of those points that came up in our previous land use application discussions. I had just a couple of questions I wanted to just follow up and get your feedback on. I know that the county had said that they were hoping to either have you make some changes to the road or give money, cash in lieu of that. And I think I read that you guys were in discussions, but leaning towards cash. And is that something that's doable for your, what you have in mind? And moving forward, is that going to impact your ability to move forward with this project?
So just unfortunate bad timing. I think legal counsel had changed in Elbert County right as we first started discussing the SIA. I mean. We are committed. It's good sales practice for us also to have Comanche Creek improved. We offered to do the improvements ourselves, but it sounds like the county would prefer cash, which I like cash too, so I don't blame them. Working with road, it sounds like at first they wanted an improvement for a certain amount of space on each side of our entries. Immediately followed up with, actually, we'd like to actually take that money so we can improve spots of Comanche Creek Road, which again, we're fine with because a nicer Comanche Creek Road, better for us. So as soon as we can get with council and I think get discussions going, we will wrap it up very quickly. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be a tremendous burden on us, but part of that, also knowing that we're not a metro district, what we're hoping for is that it's almost a lien on each parcel. So as a parcel sells, that pays for that improvement because we aren't billionaires. We can't do that all at once, but we can do it per sale.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And the other thing that I noticed, I think this was from OEM, was them recommending the inclusion of like an emergency evacuation route on the west side or the south side. So just wanted to know, I couldn't quite tell in there if it's on that.
We'll go back to one of the
So I just thought
larger
I'd
maps.
ask you.
Yeah, that's a great, and it's an ongoing thing. It's an impossible thing to do at this point because there is no access for anybody. As you can see, there's two parcels directly behind us. One is under contract by us to purchase right now that does have an easement that goes all the way down to County Road 53. We should be acquiring that by the end of the month. And then Salvation Army owns the 80 acres behind that. We have reached out to Salvation Army, but I'm sure that that land was probably given to them, and I'm being assumptive here, but it was deeded to them in 1992. I would imagine there's a conservancy on it for at least 30 years, which would make that available for them if they wanted to sell it, but they have not gotten back to me. One of the things, again, working with our other people in this realm, again, Jim Yates and his team, is we would like to make that easement continuous from our property, which right now it is. Once we acquire the 80 acres behind it, that easement will go then all the way to 53. There's going to be some legal work on that because whoever put the easements in originally did not do some of the recording correctly. So there's some verbiage, but it is quite unknown. There is verbiage there, so we know it's existing. We just have to get it redone correctly, and that will allow exit or egress, but not fire. It will not allow fire department access. As you can see, Wolf Creek runs through there. That'd be about $1 million bridge that I don't think any of us could do at this moment, but it would allow at least emergency egress for evacuation purposes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that extra information. And I just wanted to say, I think this type of project is exactly what the future of Elbert County should be if we're going to be developing. I'm just grateful to have folks who are interested in preserving space and beauty and bringing folks to our community who also appreciate that.
Thank you. Put a lot of thought into
I really like the project.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to be the dark cloud in the room, so apologies as we go through this. I like the approach, but I do have a couple questions. Number one, what's the hard requirement for open space?
So if the lots are larger than 10 acres in size, it's 20%.
Okay, so do we count D as part of the open space? Because literally, if you look at the elevation map for that, you don't want to put a horse on there. You don't want to pretty much you don't want to put much in there. It's a pretty well defined ravine. Same thing on the other side, but not quite as well defined.
So there's no real definition of what open space should look like. In this case, the slope is pretty significant, but it's what was deemed as the open space. There's no clear verbiage in the subdivision regulations stating that it needs to be less than this percentage of slope, no wetlands or floodplain, could be developable or whatnot.
Okay, so something in the future that we need to consider. Question?
Can I comment on it?
Sure.
So, as you will notice also in the southwest corner, you'll see a wildlife corridor. A lot of the open space is intended for wildlife. And I welcome you to go out to that property. I think we do not have cattle grazing on it, I think, at the moment, and the gate is open. If you go out to that property, you will see the wildlife is very concentrated in all of the open space tracks, and that was really what we were going for. Honestly, walkout basements on both 23, 16, 15, and 14 would have been optimal if we moved them in there closer to that, but that is natural. There is some natural wetlands in there potentially, but more importantly, it's wildlife thought is what we were thinking. I think that would be beneficial to our community as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Was that my questions? How big is Tract D from an acreage perspective?
Tract D is 18.794 acres.
So that would take you well below the 20% if you were to remove that from consideration. It's a future thing. I'm not pointing at you guys to say this is something, but as I'm looking at it, in the future, we should not consider open space something that is tractable, but that's just me. How far away is the nearest 10-acre subdivision plot? Because I didn't see any on the map that you shared. It was 35, 40, and better.
I believe just to the north, actually, of this map, there's quite a few. And then obviously EC East.
Even the stuff that's on the top left corner is really 35, 40 acre tracts.
So I can pull up the zoning map, but those top left properties are the same zone district. Those would be 10-acre minimums. So how the crow flies.
In the purple and the yellow?
So right above the purple in the top left corner, the lighter green. It
looks like yellow to me, sorry.
It's late.
Fantastic, okay.
And also, there are, again, up closer to 178, there are multiple, I think they were 40-acre lots that were subdivided down, but there are multiple of them just to the north.
And your plan is to continue to expand into those two 80-acre sections there?
Those would stay at 40-acre lots. Yep. We don't want to do high density further on this project.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on the rezone only for the Chevelle subdivision rezone from 2025-001. So, do I have a motion?
All right, I'll do it. I have a motion, Chair. I move that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case RZ-2025-0001, subject to the following conditions as recommended in the staff report.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote.
Diana Edstrom,
I'm voting no, and again, in my review of this application, I found that it did not have all of the required documents for the zoning regulations to allow to make a good informed decision.
Dan McCallan. Kyle DiNardo,
Aye.
Nicole Hunt,
Aye.
John Gresham,
Aye.
Dee Dee Schott Grace,
Aye.
Kevin Kirkwood,
Aye.
6 aye, 1 nay.
Thank you. So now I'll entertain a motion on the initial plot for Chevelle rezone.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case PP-2025-0001, subject to the following conditions as recommended in the staff report.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
And again, roll call vote.
Diana Edstrom,
I am voting no. Again, the application, my review of the application found that it did not have all the required documentation per the zoning regulations.
Dan McCallan, Kyle DiNardo, Nicole Hunt,
Aye.
John Gresham,
Aye.
Dee Dee Schott Grace,
Aye.
Kevin Kirkwood,
Aye.
6 aye, 1 nay.
Congratulations. You'll see a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion. Make a motion, we adjourn for this evening.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, nobody's opposed, so we're good to go. Thank y'all.
Aye.